I'd like to thank you all for coming and sharing in my discomfort for this evening. But up closer. Okay. I figured I talked loud enough. I didn't even need it. But anyhow, tonight I will be speaking the parable of the prodigal son, and I'll start off by reading the parable. If you'd like to follow with me, please turn to Luke 15:11 through 32. And he said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me. Which, back then, it was quite a different time. And the youngest son would have only received 1/3 of the estate, but the study Bible that I looked at said that it would receive 1/2 of what the eldest son would receive. But I don't know, the math doesn't work out in my head. A half of a half is a quarter in my book, but it says 1/3. But anyhow, he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father. I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long ways off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran in heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate. Now his older son was in the field. And as he came and drew nearer to the house, he heard the music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him? And he said to him, son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad. For this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. So the son asking for his share of the inheritance would have been shocking. It would have been the same as saying, him saying to the father, I wish you were dead. But the father obliged. And in most situations in that culture, the father would have disowned the son, never giving him any inheritance. I believe most of the time we are doing the same thing. We all want the God stuff, but we don't take the time or the effort to have the relationship that we are supposed to with him. We all want the benefits or the rewards, but all we are willing to do is show up at church here and there. How many people here have read their Bible every day this year? or any year. Or better yet, don't kid yourself. Think about the best streak you ever had. How do you feel about that? So now let's go back to Luke 15:14. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country. He began to be in need. So the son took the inheritance and blew it all. It symbolizes human nature. We've all done it. Maybe not quite to this extent, but we've all run the wrong way at breakneck speed. And usually it works the same way as it did for our friend in the parable. And when the bottom falls out, what's the first thing we do? We run back to God. And if that's not the first thing you do, you better not get on the ship headed to Tarshish. So now back to our friend in the story. He's scared to go back home because he knows he screwed up. He thinks he can't go back home. So he got a job feeding the pigs. Now he hits rock bottom. He's starving. Even the slop the pods he's feeding to the pigs are starting to look good enough to eat. He thinks maybe my dad will let me be his servant. At least his servants get enough to eat. So he rehearses what he's going to say and tucks his tail and heads home. The parable says when he was still a long ways off, which emphasizes the father's great love. He was probably sitting at the window just watching for him. The father ignored behavioral expectations of the time and ran to his son. Running was considered undignified for an older wealthy person. Now the prodigal repeats his prepared speech. The father does not even let him finish. Showing that he has forgiven him. The son was assumed to be dead and now is live again. This is a picture of membership into God's kingdom, with adoption into God's family. Now the welcome home party begins, and the older brother finds out and will not join. The father goes to him. The older son says, "I've always done everything right. I deserve to be celebrated." Here we have the symbolism of the younger brother as a tax collector or a sinner, and the older brother is like the Pharisees. Jesus was telling this story to both groups, but was probably mostly targeting the Pharisees with this one. But Jesus is still inviting the Pharisees to repent and accept his teaching. Now think back to that best streak of yours and how strong your relationship with God is. Do you think you're trying hard enough? The good news is, just like the song Reckless Love says, I didn't earn it and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Every time I hear that, it gives me chills. I saw a meme the other day. I love it. It says, no matter how far from God you get, it only takes one step to get back to him. So that concludes my message for this evening. I would invite you to please stand for the final song.